How you guys doing tonight? We good? We good? The wob? That's good. All right, so tonight's subject or topic is mixed marriages. We're going to be covering straight from the scriptures what the Most High thinks about interracial marriages. What does he think about, you dealing with anybody outside of your nation? How many tribes did he create? 12 tribes, right? You look puzzled, Doc. Said maybe 13. Yeah, so 12 tribes. We have a variety, an extensive variety of people, looks, tones, textures, different backgrounds in our nation, but we all come from one father, right? We come from Yasharallah, from Jacob, from Israel. So,
Conference recording.
is it really necessary to go outside of your nation, outside of your people? Man, not at all. But unfortunately, throughout, the main reason at the end of the day, everything was due to transgression. But when you understand that all these things, even with amongst other nations, that wasn't something that was normal. Everybody used to really keep, marriages within their own people. You had the Hamites, Moabites, the Moabites, and so forth, right? Israel was the same. But we're going to go through the history to really understand and, not from anybody's opinion, what the Most High thinks. If it's a sin, it was their laws that, kept us from doing such things. But, if you Israel and if you've been studying for a minute, you should already know that one of the main reasons why we in the situation that we in this day, this present time, this last captivity, is for interracial marriages and relationships. All right, so let's start off with Daniel 9, and let's read verse 7. When you start looking at all these people, they always kept our history. They always kept our records, because as you go through history, any other class that you might see when brothers teach about, you look at Rahab, when we came in, we were checking out the land to move into Canaan. That's one account, which shows you that these nations knew about the legacy Israel had, about the Most High rolling with us, and if he was rolling with us, then nobody could be, stand against us. But let's go ahead. What happened down the, in the course of time? Go ahead.
Daniel chapter 9 and verse 7. O Lord, righteousness belongeth unto thee, but unto us confusion of faces.
Confusion of what?
Confusion of faces.
So confusion of faces. We look at each other, we confuse nowadays, right? In many different aspects. From our nationality, from our beliefs. What do you believe in? Oh, I believe in this, I believe in that. I don't believe in any of that. I'm atheist. I'm into, philosophy and whatever it might be, Scientology, technology. At the end of the day, a bunch of confusion, no matter which way you look. Even amongst camps, you're like, nah, you know what? Those particular individuals right there, they're not Israel. They can't be Israel. They ain't going through, the curses and conditions that we've been in for over so many years. It's sad, but a lot of these people, man, you got to expound and you got to travel. You got to increase your knowledge. You got to look at, just by studying history. By studying history and everything that took place in past times, you'll be able to understand even the lifestyles that we partake of nowadays, even the governments that we are under in this present time out here in America, how they resemble things that were there in the past. So then when you start understanding that and you start understanding the captivities that Israel's been part of, you would be able to understand that out here in America, we indeed are we are serving the last captivity. And Jeremiah 50 and 33, or 50 and 30, 50 and 33 tells you that in this particular landmass, modern day spiritual Babylon, Egypt, right, Sodom and Gomorrah, what was going to happen in this particular landmass? We were what? We would be in captivity together, right? Being the southern kingdom and the northern kingdom. Then again, when you really study these, historical events, these facts, there's no doubt about it. But you be able to discern a lot of the things And a lot of these, doubts that you might have, all with the word, all by having law, knowing the law and knowing discernment. Because that's something that the Most High gives you when you are obedient unto him. That's that Holy Spirit that a lot of people think that they receive, which is a misconception. They don't even understand what it consists of, that you can find in Isaiah 11, knowledge, wisdom, understanding, might, the spirit of judgment, right, and so forth. Those things, you can't achieve them unless you what? Unless you're obedient unto the Most High. Acts 5:32, right? You need obedience to be able to receive these things. So even amongst Israel, if you ain't following these statutes, these laws, these commandments, you're not going to get it. But it might sound like I'm deviating from the subject, but I'm saying all this to understand what the scripture is saying. To us belongeth what?
O Lord, righteousness belongeth unto thee,
Uh-huh.
but unto us confusion of faces.
Continue on.
As at this day, to the men of Judah and to the inhabitants of Jerusalem and unto Israel that are near and that are far off.
So check that out. That are near and are far off. Remember, he gave us a landmass. But why would brothers be near and far off? What happened? We got scattered. Was it because, was that a blessing? Not at all, right? You get kicked out of your house by your parents. Is that a blessing? Are you doing something good? Not at all. You're obviously, transgressing the rules that are set by that individual, by that, individual that got authority over you. Continue on.
And that are far off, through all the countries whither thou hast driven them, because of their trespass.
Because of what?
Because of their trespass.
Go ahead.
That they have trespassed against thee.
Exactly. So it's telling us, look, to you is all this confusion nowadays. Black on black crime, Latino on Latino crime, Latino on black crime, or Hispanic, brown on black, whatever you want to call it. No, we were going over history today, 70 AD, the siege, right? What happened before 70 AD? What happened? She got it right there.
So the Romans were like taking the places of the high priests, trying to make themselves high priests.
But in regards to the subject that I'm talking about, what happened?
Oh, they were.
In regards to interracial warfare and all that, I mean, in tribal warfare. What was going on in the days of between 63 and 70 AD? Were the Romans really killing us?
No, Israel was killing each other.
It was Israel. And that's a lot of things, like even to understand the New Testament, a lot of our people don't understand the events that were taking place at this time. It said that more Israelites were taking Israelites out, that they helped out the Romans. Because remember, you had Sadducees, you had the Zealots, you had the Pharisees, and other sects of Israelites. And the enemy already knew what to do. They said, if we infiltrate them, we confuse the hell out of them, guess what? They're going to kill each other. Which what they did with us in this in this last captivity. What was their motto when they came in? Divide and conquer. Because united, we stand, right? But if we get divided, guess what? You're a different person, you a different people, you a different people, your tribe doesn't get along with my tribe. But when you read the history of the Native American people, the natives of this continent, so-called natives, we know that's not real, but to an extent, I guess, yeah, you could identify them by that term. Those individuals had trading posts and things of that matter, right? And they got along with each other. As soon as Esau came in, but also before Esau came in, we also suffered from tribal warfare, which is what allowed them individuals to come in, move in, and then saw the perfect opportunity to come in, divide, and conquer. Don't they do that till this present day? You read about the Willie Lynch letter. A lot of people say, oh, that's a fake, document or whatever, historical, writing. But did they not put it in use back then and still putting it into use in this present time? You see that? Why do you think our people, our women, bleach their skin, blonde their hair, try to look like the enemy? You work in corporate America, you look good. Who are you looking good for? You out there trying to impress who? Who's out there? The enemy, Daddy, Esau. A lot of people might not agree with that, but when you really look at it and analyze everything, that's what it is. they say that a man, a black man with wealth, it is more likely for that individual, and black or Latino, because it's the same thing, to marry what? What do you think? He's going to marry somebody of his own kind? I mean, you see it everywhere. Celebrities, who do they marry? The enemy. So we're going to understand what the problem is of us marrying the enemy. So let's go from there. Let's go to Leviticus 20 and 23. Let's see what the Most High said about us. So remember, all this confusion of faces, the scattering, it all came from us transgressing and not abiding by the law of the Most High, trespassing against him. Go ahead.
20 what?
20 and 23.
Leviticus chapter 20 and verse 23. And ye shall not walk in the manners of the nation, which I cast out before you, for they committed all these things, and therefore I abhorred them.
Did he what?
I abhorred them.
So imagine that. Most High hates these nations. Yeah, he's with them. He deals with them. He blessed Ishmael, right? He gave blessings to Esau. He don't leave them hanging to say, you know, so to speak, but he says, my special people are not, that's not them. I'm not dealing with them. Because we understand, if we start understanding the scriptures, according to Isaiah 14, being one of the chapters, it shows you what their duty was. When you go back to the Torah, it tells you what their duty was. Because what happened when we left Egypt? Who came with us? A mixed multitude, right? Why do you think that mixed multitude? Why did the Most High allow that mixed multitude to come with us? To serve. For what else? Imagine, you don't put your brother to serve. What's the law? You can't put your brother, you can't buy your brother, right, to be a servant. So it says, look, I'm going to hook you up. He gave us everything, showing you the Most High said, look, if you're with me, I'm going to give you everything. All the riches, pots, everything, all the golden vessels and all that. He said, look, take them from these Egyptians. They gave them willingly because they saw the power of our Father, right, of our God. And they're like, here, go ahead. You know what? We'll go ahead and follow along with you as well because guess what? You're going to need servants down the line. But what does Esau do? I mean, what does Israel do? Let's just all get along, right? Although we don't ever see that. We don't ever see that type of treatment from any other nation. Every other nation looks at you with dirty looks. Yeah, they degrade you. They degrade you. They give you, you know, they name you. They give you titles that are all negative. Even when you go like into the word black, right? Black versus white. You look at the definition. For black is all negative. For white is all positive. Although in reality, there's no black or white people. They took the title of white, right? They gave our people black. You look at the Indians. What's Indian? Savage. All these negative terms to refer to us. Why? Because that's their spirit. But a lot of people see, you gotta, this Bible, you really gotta read it. Read the history, read the laws. Because what did Esau say that he was going to do as soon as his father, the days of mourning were over for his father? Then, he didn't do it then, right? But then farther down in the scriptures, what does it say about him having what type of hate? A perpetual. What is perpetual? Eternal. So now imagine if the Most High is already letting you know, look, this boy, this individual, this nation right here, no matter what you think, no matter what way he comes at you, when he speaketh fair, believe him not. This individual, this is how he feels about you. And he tells you, this is how I feel about him. He feels the same way. He says, you know what? Because what did he tell us about dealing with other nations? He said, if at all possible, be at peace with these nations. You don't think Esau knew that as well? But has he been on that tip? Not at all. And you know, everybody else, Moab, Esau, all these other nations did us dirty. But now we understand why he's talking about these individuals. These particular ones that he's referring to right here are the nations that were in Egypt, the Hamites and so forth, right? So read it for the top again. What did he say?
Leviticus chapter 20 and verse 23. And ye shall not walk in the manners of the nations, which I cast out before you. For they committed all these things, and therefore I abhorred them. But I have said unto you, ye shall inherit their land, and I will give it unto you to possess it, a land that floweth with milk and honey. I am the Lord your God, which has separated you from other people.
Exactly. So he said he separated us from other people. Hold that right quick. Go to Deuteronomy 32 and verse 7. And this is one thing that you guys got to understand. Whoever's listening, whoever's present, whoever's going to view this video, You guys got to understand that when we out there as Hebrew Israelites waking our people up, we're doing exactly what the Father told us to do from jump. We ain't coming up like these, extreme radical, new sect or new religion. This is what our heritage consists of. We're doing nothing new under the sun. We're bringing this back though, because unfortunately, you're going to see what happened at the end of the day. He forgot about us. He says, my people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. So it's not hate against anybody. It's love for our people that might be taken like we hate everybody else. But that wasn't Israel. That's never been Israel. Even till this present time right here, all the stuff that we've been through, you know what? We still pretty humble individuals that a lot of people take advantage of. Why? Because we still lack this knowledge. Brother was talking about the other day on Saturday, the Christians, what do they say? Turn the other cheek. Is that what the scriptures are saying? Nah, you turn the other cheek amongst your own people, amongst those that are keeping the laws. You do me wrong one day, you know what? I gotta learn how to forgive you. Isn't that what we say when we send our Father prayer up? All right, but then there's a couple things. Of course, you're not gonna let everything slide, but that's what that scripture is talking about. You build with your brethren. You allow them, to be able to repent, and you gotta forgive them. But go. What did I tell you to get?
Deuteronomy 32.
Yeah, go ahead. Get 32 and 8.
Deuteronomy chapter 32 and verse 8. When the Most High divided to the nations their inheritance, when he separated the sons of Adam, he set the bounds of the people according to the number of the children of Israel.
So you hear that. Read the next verse.
For the Lord's portion is his people. Jacob is the lot of his inheritance.
So it's real deep. It's not something that we're coming up with. It's something that the Most High told us. Look, go back to Leviticus and read the last verse that you read, 24.
Verse 24, Leviticus chapter 23 and verse 24. But I have said unto you, ye shall inherit their land, and I will give it unto you to possess it, a land that floweth with milk and honey. I am the Lord your God, which have separated you from other people.
Imagine. He says he separated us from every other people. The land that he gave us, Israel, and he's telling you it floweth with milk and honey, meaning it has all the resources that you could ever need, that you could ever imagine, everything. We had olives in the north coast, the lands of Asher and so forth, olives. You had grapes, you had cattle, you had everything that you could wish for. You had rivers, seas. You had the Mediterranean, which at that time was, it was one of the biggest places of import and exports, right? Everything that you could imagine, we had. He said, I'm gonna give it to you. Why? Because our forefather was what? Obedient. You read back in Genesis? Let's get that right quick. And that was the only reason why he was dealing with us. He said, look, from jump, your forefather, he proved himself worthy. 26? Is it 26 and 5? Yes. 26 and 5. He proved himself worthy. He proved himself, he was obedient to the law, right? So that's the reason why the Most High was moving with this particular brother. Go ahead, read that.
Genesis chapter 26 and verse 5. Because that Abraham obeyed my voice and kept my charge, my commandments, my statutes, and my laws.
Exactly. Let's go to Joshua 24. Let's see what his parents were doing. So understand the root of what happened. Because even when you go back to Adam, the same thing happened with Adam. Adam, that he wasn't the only one at that time, but the Most High said, I chose Adam. With Adam, Adam was the individual that he was moving with in those days before the flood. But go ahead and get, I think it's Joshua 24, and get verse 2.
The book of Joshua chapter 24 and verse 2. And Joshua said unto the people, Thus saith the Lord God of Israel, your fathers dwelt on the other side of the flood in old time, even Terah, the father of Abraham, and the father of Nachor, and they served other gods.
See what they were doing? They were serving other gods, even at that time. Imagine that. Imagine what type of individual Abraham was. He wasn't down with that. Imagine your whole family, everybody serving other gods. Abraham was like, nah, I ain't bowing down to none of that. What did he do?
And I took your father Abraham from the side of the flood, and led him throughout all the land of Canaan, and multiplied his seed, and gave him Isaac.
Exactly. So then you start seeing Isaac, then, Jacob, then, the 12 tribes to what we have nowadays, to who we are nowadays. So going back, let's go back to Deuteronomy 7 and 6. So we read in Leviticus that he separated us. So if he's separating us, why would we go back and unite with the heathens? Get back together with these nations that he's, putting away from around us. Does it make sense? Lack of knowledge. Isn't that what your parents tell you when you're coming up? If you have parents that care for you, they see something that's not right. You got a little daughter, right? And the neighbors are nothing but little, harlot type kids, raised with no direction, nothing. Or they out there, doing the most. Are you gonna keep that daughter? Are you gonna allow her to have company with them? You shouldn't. Unfortunately, that's not the case nowadays. Why? Like the brother said, we destroy for lack of knowledge. We don't see that value in our heritage. We don't understand that we kings, queens, that we come from a royal lineage. So we look at it like, you know what? Whatever. It's all good. That's what everybody else is doing. You look at the media, look at television, you look at anywhere you look, it's like, yeah, you know what? That's the way to do. That's the thing to do. That's the way to be. The Most High is telling us, nah, look, don't mingle yourselves with these heathens. Get away from them. Don't learn their ways. Get Deuteronomy 7 and 6 to sum up what I just said.
Deuteronomy chapter 7 and verse 6. For thou art an holy people unto the Lord thy God. The Lord thy God hath chosen thee to be a special people unto himself, above all people that are upon the face of the earth.
So it says a holy people, right? Holy. Royal. It says royal, having the status of a king or queen or member of their family. You don't necessarily got to be the queen or king, but just being a member of that particular family makes you of a royal stock. Are we not that? Do we conduct ourselves according to, according to royalty, as royalty? We don't. Again, destroyed for lack of knowledge. Then it says holy, dedicated or consecrated to the Most High for a purpose. Didn't he choose us for a purpose? To rule over everybody. To be the light unto this world. Our light got dim, right? But another thing, it says peculiar, strange, odd, unusual. Aren't we seen like that by a lot of people? One of a kind, unique. But everybody they look at us, they talk all this garbage, but at the end of the day, what do they want to do? Be like us. Dress like us, talk like us, cook like us. Take our women, take our men. Most I said, that's not something I'm allowing. You know what? I chose you. You were a special people. You're a special people, and you're going to be above all these other nations. You finished with that, right?
Yeah.
So let's continue on. Let's go to 1 Peter. Let's find this in the New Testament. For a lot of my people out there that don't believe in the Old Testament, let's see what the New Testament has to say in 1 Peter 2 and verse 9. Go ahead.
The book of 1 Peter chapter 2 and verse 9. But ye are a chosen generation, a royal priesthood, an holy nation, a peculiar people, that you should show forth the praises of him who hath called you out of darkness into his marvelous light.
Imagine that. Just imagine what that comprises of. When you look at that, when you wake up, right, you got to be in tune with the Most High. He gave us a set of rules how to even just dress, how our appearance must be. So he says, look, in everything that you do, you're a special people that you got to represent and give praises unto the Most High. But imagine how we doing that when we out here with strange wardrobe, dressing as the opposite sex, out here putting gauges in your ears like the Hamites, doing all these other things, consuming drugs, defiling your temple. How does that make any sense? How would you feel if you had somebody or your kids and you tell them, look, you can't do this, you can't do that, and they do completely the opposite of what you tell them not to do? They go ahead and do all these things. Would you be upset? Some might not be. Because you look at look at the world, some even condone all this nonsense at the end of the day. Scriptures say our kids rule the house nowadays. That wasn't the case back in the day. Women running out of order, that was not the case back in the day. Men leaving their kids and all that, you will not see that in our nation back in these days, at the beginning of of our legacy. But in the New Testament, it's telling you the same thing. But ye are a chosen generation, chosen by the Most High, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, right? Peculiar people that should show forth the praises of him who hath called you out of the darkness. But what do? Completely the opposite of what the Most High told us to do. We're going to go in history and see, a couple of these cases and see what was happening. What did it cause for to our people? All right, so let's go from there. Let's go to Exodus. Actually, not from there. Let's go to Deuteronomy 4 to understand what made us different. What made us these special individuals that the Most High is talking about. Deuteronomy 4, and you can start at verse 4, read down to 6.
Deuteronomy chapter 4 and verse 4. But ye that did cleave unto the Lord your God are alive, every one of you this day.
So this is after we came out of the 40 years, right? Or going through the wilderness. So he's telling us, look, all of you guys that kept the law, the Most High did not forsake you. You are alive this day. Go ahead.
Behold, I have taught you statutes and judgments, even as the Lord my God commanded me, that you should do so in the land whither you go to possess it. Keep therefore and do them, for this is your wisdom and your understanding in the sight of the nations.
So what made us special was these statutes, the commandments, the judgments, right, that the Most High gave us. He gave us back in the days of Adam. He gave us through Moses, Joshua, through all the prophets, through Yahweh Shai, through brothers that nowadays are back and awoke to this, law, these statutes, these judgments. Says, I have given you these things, and these are the things that make you special and different from everybody else. Continue.
Which shall hear all these statutes and say, surely this great nation is a wise and understanding people.
Imagine that. But the opposite is what happens nowadays. Let me try to get this scripture right quick. Let's go to Lamentations. Lamentations, I think it's like 2. This is what these people think of us now. Go to Lamentations 2 and start at 13.
Lamentations chapter 2 and verse 13. What things shall I take to witness for thee? What things shall I liken to thee, O daughter of Jerusalem? What shall I equal to thee, that I may comfort thee, O virgin daughter of Zion? For thy breach is great like the sea. Who can heal thee?
So everything that we had done till this moment right here that we're reading about, it had been bad. Imagine, we had sodomites. Some of the kings placed sodomites in the priesthood to serve as the priests. We were sacrificing unto idols, sacrificing our kids unto idols. Same thing that, a lot of our people say, like, you know what, we ain't doing that nowadays. If you go to a Catholic church, you go to any other denomination, any religion, you're offering your babies, yourself, to idols, to other so-called gods. Why? Because you're not adhering to the words of the Most High. But guess what? The Most High is like looking at us and telling us, look, the breach that you committed is it's like a sea. It's great like the sea. Who can heal thee? He's letting us know, look, the transgressions, everything that you've committed to this moment, to this point, is crazy. It's so vast that, man, I don't know if you have a way back. Go ahead, continue.
Verse 14. Thy prophets have seen vain and foolish things for thee, and they have not discovered thine iniquity.
So are those true prophets? No, right? If it's vain things that they have seen, foolish things that they have seen, guess what? Those are not prophets of the Most High. Go ahead.
To turn away thy captivity, but have seen for thee false burdens and causes of banishment.
Just like religion in this present time, right? And look at what happened. There's the same thing that's happening to us now. So we were supposed to be a royal people, people said to rule and be above all the other nations, but instead, this is what was happening. Go ahead, read 15.
All that passed by clapped their hands at thee. They hissed and wagged their head at the daughter of Jerusalem, saying, is this the city that men call the perfection of beauty, the joy of the whole earth?
Because that's what the history had, right? Don't mess with Israel. Those people are a wise, knowledgeable nation. But what happened at the end of the day? Now they go by his clap. They go through the hood. They go to the, through the ghettos. They take tours. Like, oh, look, that's how they live. Look at how these savages, these animals live, and so forth. When that wasn't supposed to be the case. The case was supposed to be like, you go through like cities back like in the days of the Moors. What is it? It's a city in Spain. But I forgot what city in particular it was, but they were the first individuals to create lights, to have, the way their government was, it was all in order. A lot of nations were looking like, man, that was one of the only places back in the day that you could be out late at night and the city lights were lit because our people had set that up. Things like that, things like the Mayans, the Machu Picchu, right? You go out there and you see the way that their architecture is laid out, that people still can't figure out. Just looking at the laws, the ways that we were dealing with each other, not having internal conflict and all of that. You look at these people, it's like, man, these people are surely on some, the Most High is with them, because look at the way they operate, the way they conduct themselves. Our kids being obedient and all in line. All of that was what we had back in the day. But now when we reading, what happened down the line was, look, the complete opposite, the same thing that we have nowadays. Complete chaos. Bywords, right? All of them are on welfare. They're all welfare recipients. They're all into gangbanging. They're all drug addicts. They classify us like the worst, human beings that have ever existed. When you read these articles of these Native Americans, the whites were saying that they used to go and rape the indigenous women because they were dirty women. Imagine that. That's what they teach you. But then when you look at historical accounts, they show you the opposite. What were these heathens doing when they came out here? In the history of Europe, it shows you. In the history of Europe, when you compare the Europeans to how dirty and filthy they were compared to the Aztecs, the Incas, the Mayans, all the individuals up here in North America, how they had baths, they had irrigation systems. What would the people be doing with a bath or with multiple baths? Cleaning themselves. They didn't have this out there in Europe, but they want to call us savages, dirty people. Oh, you know what gives us the right to rape you is because you're dirty. A prostitute is dirty, so really they're not people. Just go ahead and do whatever we want with you. Cut them open. You look at the devastation of the Indies, all the things that these heathens were doing to our people, because they always looked at us. They hated us. That perpetual hate has not gone anywhere. So they dealt with us like, look, we know deep down these are the chosen people of the Most High. We hate them. They robbed us from our birthright, which is not the case. But that's what what the spirit consists of. But going back, so that's what these individuals were saying. Is this the city that men call the perfection of beauty, the joy of the whole earth? Read 16.
All thine enemies have opened their mouth against thee. They hiss and gnash their teeth. They say, we have swallowed her up. Certainly, this is the day that we look for.
Imagine that. That's what he said. All the nations, not just one. It said all your enemies. This was what they were looking for, to accomplishing, and they accomplished it. Psalms 83, it tells you, all thine enemies are confederate against thee. David saw it in his days. Nothing has changed. So now imagine understanding that the only thing that changed now is that we think those are our friends. Oh, you know what? It's all good. My Chinese friend, he cool. My African buddy, he's all right. My white friends, they cool. Is that the case? No. And even if they were cool, whatever. For work purposes, leave it at the job. That's it. As far as relations, having any covenants with them, other than business, because our people did have business with these other nations. But remember, we also had judgment, discernment to be able to figure out, who we were gonna make business relationships with. But that's not the case. So now let's get to the point. Let's get to Exodus 34. And even in the days of Baruch, he told you the same thing. The prophet Baruch tells you the same thing as far as, not, being confused, not knowing who we are. But go to Exodus 34 and read verse 11.
The book of Exodus, chapter 34, and verse 11. Observe thou that which I command thee this day. Behold, I drive out before thee the Amorite, and the Canaanite, and the Hittite, and the Perizzite, and the Hivite, and the Jebusite. Take heed to thyself, lest thou make a covenant with the inhabitants of the land whither thou goest, lest it be for a snare in the midst of thee.
For a what?
For a snare in the midst of thee.
What's a snare? Trap, right? Says if you make covenants with these individuals, guess what? You're going to get trapped at the end of the day. You're going to get caught up. They're going to overpower you. They're going to take over whatever you thought you had. Isn't that the case? All these contracts, all these things that supposedly, all these treaties that they promise our people. How many of them did they keep? And then you got ignorant individuals, brothers out there teaching in Hollywood and saying, you guys are racist. And then brother asks, what are you? Oh, I'm Native American, but I got a good job. Stop whining. Go get you a good job. This is the land of milk and honey, the land of opportunity. A Native American saying this nonsense. Just when they took, the Dakota pipeline, right? An event in history that shows you how Esau felt, even recent history, about black men even talking or messing with a white woman. Yeah, that's a big one. What did they even do to our people out there in Oklahoma? Wasn't it over a black man with a white woman? Allegations of him doing what? What did he do? Supposedly, what was he doing? Flirting with her, or that's what it was, right in the elevator? Yeah, but what they said that he had done, which wasn't the case. But the whole point is like, how did they feel? How do they feel about us? They've always felt like that. Say, we ain't mixing with you. But one funny thing is that when they came and conquered throughout all the lands where we were at and even other nations, what did the white men do to the women? Our women. Raped them. They knew that by taking the women, their seed was going to continue. And then this caused another confusion of faces. A lot of time, the dark-skinned genes are stronger than their genes, and you have a lot of black Edomites out there nowadays, right? You have a lot of that going on, and then you wonder why a lot of our people don't like each other. A lot of these so-called black people hate on their own people. Not saying that's just that's the only reason, but Esau was moving strategically. He knew what he was doing. He knows about 1 Chronicles 9:1. The lineage comes from a man, from the seed of a man. So they were always doing these things, causing more division amongst our people. All right. So he's talking about these African tribes, these Hamitic tribes. He says, look, they're going to become a snare in the midst of the. Continue on. 13.
Verse 13. But ye shall destroy their altars, break their images, and cut down their groves. For thou shalt worship no other God, for the Lord, whose name is jealous, is a jealous God. Lest thou make a covenant with the inhabitants of the land, and they go a-whoring after their gods, and do sacrifice unto their gods. And one call thee, and thou eat of his sacrifice.
Isn't that what's happening? We have Halloween coming right around the corner. All our people caught up in that stuff. Everything that Esau pushes out, which is an abomination, which is something that causes you to go a-whoring unto these idols, unto these no gods. We partake of all these things. Halloween, then we celebrate Thanksgiving. We celebrate the massacre of our people, of our Native American people. We're happy because the events that the Most High said were going to be a curse to us took place, and now we out here celebrating these things. How much sense does that make? Then we go and make covenants with these individuals. All these celebrities going and marrying all these Europeans, Edomites, whether they be from out here, Spain, wherever. And then you look at the media, the music, everything that's out there. Who's controlling it? Whose faces are out there? Well, we're not controlling it, but I'm saying when you look at a lot, like, for example, in the so-called Latin community, a lot of these artists that our people are in tune with, you look at them and look at their background, they're Edomites. A lot of the stuff that our Caribbean people, you know, subscribe to. Reggae, right? You got, what's Bob Marley? An Edomite. Imagine all his lineage. Lauryn Hill got with one of them, had a gang of kids, all Edomites. But just by looking at the outer appearance, you're like, oh yeah, you know what? That's Israel right there. What is Tia and Tamara? All of them. There's what, like about 5 people, 5 brothers? All celebrities, people that our people look up at, after, right? They're all Edomites. And you could continue down the line. Confusion of faces. Because we think, you know what, hey, they're mixed. It's all good. A lot of times, you don't even think about it till you do your research, like, oh, snap, really? But understanding the severity of knowing these statutes and the judgments that came with them, we would be more, we would not just, you know, make these dumb decisions that our people have made in the past, right? Wouldn't you search it out? Even back when you, like, you know, the brother always pulls out the pit bull, how you breed pit bulls. You know, you don't just go get any pit to breed them. You make sure that his pedigree is on point, that he's from a good stock, even amongst us. Wouldn't you want some good kids to come from your marriage? But imagine we don't take the time. Half the time you're inebriated, you at the club, you have that one night stand, boom, another Israelite comes, right, into this world. A lot of times, as you know, they call them mistakes. A lot of us are here as mistakes. Most I said, look, do everything decently and in order. And we're going to read from these scriptures how he said, look, make sure that you choose people from your own nation, from your own stock. Oh, well, what happened with Ruth? What happened with, what was the brother with the locks? Samson. You got to also understand when the Most High has a plan, the plan is his plan. At the end of the day, you can't go against it. But even with those 2 incidents, what were the babies? Israel. I don't know, did Samson have babies with that female? They don't talk about it, right? But either way, if he would have had seeds, he would have had babies, what they have been? Right? No matter how you spin it, they would have been Israelites. Ruth, Boaz, what was a baby? Israel. So before you start, you know, pulling things out and be like, well, you know what, they did it, I'm going to go ahead and do it. Yeah, you just focus on that then. But focus on the whole law, the statutes, everything that and even those incidents, those events have a reason why they occur. And it was a righteous reason. Ruth, for example, the brother was just abiding by the law that you find, what is it, in Deuteronomy 25? The duty of a brother. I think it's 25:5. Is it? Deuteronomy 25:5, it tells you about duty unto a brother, right? To continue his lineage. That's what happened with that incident. And in the case of Samson, that was a plan of the Most High to be able to overtake the Philistines. So when you really meditate, it wasn't sin in any of those cases. But let's see what happened in the cases that we're going to bring up right now. So continue on, finish up 16.
Verse 16. And thou take of their daughters unto thy sons, and their daughters go a-whoring after their gods, and make thy sons go a-whoring after their gods. Thou shalt make thee no molten gods.
That was it. So, you know, you could read the law on your own and the history, but briefly it's telling you, look, make no covenants. None whatsoever. People going to be out here like, well, you know what, that was in the past. You have scriptures for that. It says, you know, in Acts 5:29, right? Are we going to follow, we going to believe the Most High, or we going to stick to what men's philosophies and ideas and thoughts are? The Most High. It tells you, look, everything that I give you a dietary law is for your benefit. I tell you not to make covenants with these individuals is for your benefit. I chose this particular land for you to move into. It's for your own benefit. He says, in this location where we at, what is it, Micah 2 and 9, I believe it is, so 2 and 10. It says what? This is not a rest, so don't get comfortable with it. Don't get caught up. Yeah, you're going to partake of a couple of things here and there, but don't let that be your focus, because at the end of the day, you're going to lose. All right? But let's go, before we continue, go to Genesis 28. Let's see what happened in the creation of our nation. What was told to Jacob? 28, and you could read 1 through 3.
Genesis chapter 28 and verse 1. And Isaac called Jacob and blessed him and charged him.
And
said unto charged him.
Charged him. He commanded him to do what?
And said unto him, Thou shalt not take a wife of the daughters of Canaan. Arise, go to Padanaram, and to the house of Bethuel thy mother's father, and take thee a wife from thence of the daughters of Laban, thy mother's brother.
So what is that saying? Take one of your own stock. Say, don't trip. Don't do what Esau's doing, or what Esau had done. He said, go and marry your own. Those are words of Isaac before him passing that he told his son. These are the things that we got to continue to tell our people. Psalm 78 and 5, it tells you it's a commandment for us as men, women, parents to teach our kids these laws, these statutes, the history of our ancestors, right? So let's go from there. And so, you know, he came across Rachel and Leah. Go to Proverbs 19 and 21. A lot of our Israelite brothers are going to be out there like, nah, you know what? Yeah, but as long as I follow the whole law, it's all good. You know what? I'm going to get me one of them exotic ones, and most likely I'm going to have them, you know, be under the law. Everything is possible with the Most High. You start creating all this garbage to try to please your lust, because that's all it is at the end of the day, a lust. You're being carnal, but what does the scripture say? 19 and verse 21.
Proverbs chapter 19 and verse 21. There are many devices in a man's heart. Nevertheless, the counsel of the Lord, that shall stand.
So it says, regardless how you feel in your heart and your mind, whatever thoughts you might have, whatever things you might think you are able to accomplish, if it's not written, if the Most High is saying, look, those things are not possible, then you always stick with the counsel of the Most High, because that's what's going to stand. Proverbs 4 and 2, he tells you, I give you good doctrine. Forsake ye not my law. We read in the law, right, that we were not to make any covenants with these nations. Get another one. Get 14 and 12, same book. And Proverbs is a good book just to read through at any time in life. It gives you so much knowledge. That along with Sirach, Ecclesiasticus, he sums everything up. Real brief, but it's deep knowledge, deep understanding, deep wisdom that could help us on our everyday, you know, life. Go ahead.
Proverbs chapter 14 and verse 12. There is a way which seemeth right unto a man, but the end thereof is the ways of death.
Exactly. You might think that white female is the one for you. Might think that Chinese girl, you know what? Nah, yeah, she's my soulmate. I don't care how anybody says. She might be Israel. You know, she got the same taste. She likes the same things. She likes the same music. She's into what I'm into. You want to take a risk? At the end of the day is what? That's the result. He's like, at the end, you're going to achieve death. Don't play with your life. But a lot of us choose to, you know what, gamble. And at the end of the day, we end up in a negative, in a messed up situation. Let's go from there. Let's go to Deuteronomy 7 again. Read it again from the law. Read what the Most High instructed us again as we were coming into the land of Canaan. Let's see what he said out here in this book.
The book of Deuteronomy chapter 7 and verse 1. When the Lord thy God shall bring thee into the land whither thou goest to possess it, and have cast out many nations before thee, the Hittites and the Girgashites and the Amorites and the Canaanites and the Perizzites and the Hivites and the Jebusites, 7 nations greater and mightier than thou. And when the Lord thy God shall deliver them before thee, thou shalt smite them and utterly destroy them. Thou shalt make no covenant with them, nor show no mercy unto them.
So that's what the instructions were from our Father. That we abide by them? No. Did Saul abide by that with Amalek? No. What happened with the Agagite lineage in the days of Ezra? Haman, do you guys remember that? What did he try to do to our people? Just kill us all. So there's a way that a man might think, you know, that's the way to go, but at the end is death. Imagine what Saul caused that at that, you know, with him allowing that Agagite king to survive. He said, utterly destroy these people. There's nothing good that's going to come out of these individuals. What happened down the line, you know, as history, you know, continued down the way, these individuals, that lineage, tried to take all of Israel out. And if it wasn't for the brother, what's his name? What's the brother's name? Mordecai. Yeah, Mordecai. And the powers of the Most High and his faithfulness, guess what? We would have been destroyed. So showing you, look, at the end of the day, you're not going to get anything positive out of these relationships. Imagine, you've seen Get Out, right? Imagine everything that how these people think about you. Would you feel comfortable going to your white wife's household? Right? A lot of our people have those type of, you know, situations in their families due to a lack of knowledge. At the end of the day, it's not a positive thing. And it hasn't been something that even other nations allowed, you know, because they knew as long as we stick with our own, guess what? We know our culture. We're going to, there's going to be progress among our nation. As long as we stick with our own. Once we go out of our own and start mixing with everybody else, guess what? Just like animals, just like the pit bulls and stuff like that. That breed, and now what do they call them? Mutts, right? Are they, do you pay the same amount of money for a mutt compared to a full breed? So that's what was happening. We're going to read that the Most High in the book of Ezra. It shows you that in Nehemiah. Let's go ahead. Man, time is flying. All right, go from there. Go to, I'll finish that up. Verse 4.
Verse 4.
Actually 3.
Verse 3. Neither shalt thou make marriages with them. Thy daughter thou shalt not give unto his son, nor his daughter shalt thou take unto thy son.
Would you be cool with your daughter marrying an Edomite? Moabite? Oh. I bet she just went and did it. How about you, Darash? You be happy? You be cool? If your daughter went and marry somebody out the nation? You heard that? He wouldn't have a daughter. That's how the Most High feels about us. He's like, you know what? Go ahead. Man, that's what we going in. You gotta, if you haven't gotten there yet, the question was, what happens if you marry somebody that you thought was Israel, and then you find out she's not? Man, yeah. But that's why we got to do our due diligence, you know. Yeah. Going back to, you know, the steps of marriage, you start analyzing that. That's in cases where you think, you know, like, oh, okay. Imagine, I mean, things happen in the past. You know, there's, I won't call it mistakes or whatever, but things that we do without that knowledge. But as we increase in our knowledge, our wisdom, and our understanding, guess what? We got to take these precautions before we end up in a jacked up situation. But then at the end of the day, I mean, guess what? Because it did happen. I mean, they did it willingly in a way. Most High said, look, separate from them. That's all it is at the end of the day. Because you know they're not going to abide by the law. Go to, what does Ezra say? Or Esdras say? Because that's what happens at the end of the day. That's one thing, too. I mean, if it was before the truth, what can you do? If they don't abide by the law, the statutes, what did Corinthians say? Peace. You know, give them that bill of divorce. They out, they gone. But, you know, you'll be able to figure it out right here by what is it? Esdras 3? Yeah, 3 and 36. It is? Go ahead, read it. So the book of Esdras, these are, you know, like once we know the law, once we know these statutes, we'll be able to figure these things out. Because I was just talking about black Edomites. I bring that term up sometimes. People are like shocked, like, what? That doesn't exist. It does. Just how you got white Israelites. You might think, oh, nah, that's an Edomite. It says in Romans 6, right? Romans 8 and 16. What does it say about the Spirit? The Spirit beareth witness. And how does the Spirit bear witness? This is one of the things you got to look for. Go ahead and read that.
2nd Ezra chapter 3 and verse 36. Flee the shadow of this world. Receive the joyfulness of your
Nah.
glory.
That's not
Oh,
it.
my fault. That's 2 and 36.
Oh, I will, bro.
Verse 36. Thou shalt find that Israel by name have kept thy precepts, but not the heathen.
But not the heathen. And he said he had gone to and fro all over. And he says, but you understand, and you obviously know that only Israel by name has kept thy precepts. Because that's Psalms 147. Psalms 147, 19 and 20, it tells you. Actually, that's the next scripture. Go ahead and get that.
147.
Yeah. Oh, actually, but you didn't finish 4. Go to 7 and 4. Finish that up first.
Deuteronomy chapter 7 and verse 4. For they will turn away thy son from following me, that they may serve other gods. So will the anger of the Lord be kindled against you and destroy thee suddenly.
So was the Most High play with that? He's like, nah, man. Don't get caught up with those situations, in those situations. Because he says he's going to be upset, real upset, and destroy thee suddenly. So let's get Psalms 147:19 just to understand again what Ezra was talking about. And Romans is talking about. Sometimes we might sit back and be like, man, you don't know? I don't know. I'm not sure. She's dark. She got the features of an Israelite. Or he got the features of an Israelite, you know. But at the end of the day, give them this test. Give them these laws. Give them these statutes. Give them 6 months. Give them a year. Give them 2 years. Because usually it's on like that second year where they're like, nah, you know what? I miss Christmas. I miss Halloween. I miss all these other things. I'm going back. I ain't with you. So guess what? At the end of the day, whether they were or weren't, they ain't down with you. They ain't down for the Most High. So guess what? What good are they to you? A stumbling block, a snare. Peace. Go ahead, get that. 147:19.
The book of Psalms chapter 147 and verse 19. He showeth his word unto Jacob.
To the whole world.
Unto Jacob. His statutes and his judgments unto Israel. He have not dealt so with any nation.
Exactly. He hath not dealt so with any nation. Continue.
He have not dealt so with any nation. And as for his judgment, they have not known them. Praise ye the Lord.
Exactly. Which Ezra was referring to. He says, thou shalt find that Israel by name hath kept thy precepts, and not the heathen. So again, we start understanding these laws, these statutes, our history. We'll be able to make those proper decisions, those right decisions. So then from there, let's go to, let's get with Genesis. You could take Genesis 2 and 23, showing you that we're supposed to be of one flesh. But let's go to Amos 3 and 3. Because that's another, like I was bringing up, that factor at the end of the day, whether they're Israel or not, you still got to have these particular things under, you know, within that relationship to be able to have a healthy relationship, a relationship that's going to last. Go ahead, Amos 3 and 3.
The book of Amos chapter 3 and verse 3. Can two walk together except they be agreed?
Can they? Not at all. So at the end of the day, you know, heathens not, we read it already. Down in history, you're going to see that they're not. The only time where they have respect and try to become or convert into one of our people, which is impossible, was when the Most High had whooped they behind and humbled them to that extreme point. But before that, they're like, we ain't down with you. We ain't down with your power. Until they saw the power of the Most High, then they humble themselves and try to be like us. But at the end of the day, was that in a sincere manner? Nah, that was just as a benefit, I guess, you know, to stay alive. But go ahead and get that. Oh, you got that. Amos 3 and 3. Can two walk together unless they agree? The answer is no. 1 Corinthians 1 and 10, we don't got to go to it, but it tells you that if that you got to be in one accord, right? So again, if this individual, test them, put them to the test. If you haven't slipped yet, put them to the test. If you slip, guess what? It's going to reveal itself. At the end of the day, 1 Corinthians 7, read all the different instances that it gives you. But if those individuals, whether you got into this relationship before you knew that they were not Israel, guess what? You got to get rid of them. If If they were Israelites and they still don't abide by the law, guess what? You give them a certain amount of time, but at the end of the day, if they commit adultery, whether it be physical or spiritual, you also get rid of them. Because at the end of the day, it's going to be a stumbling block for you. But let's go from there. Let's go to Ecclesiasticus 37:12. Because all throughout the Bible, it tells you the same thing over and over. We read in Genesis what Isaac told our forefather Jacob to do, to get one of his own. What does it say right here?
So, Sirach chapter 37 and verse 12. But be continually with a godly man, whom thou knowest to keep the commandments of the Lord.
So we already know that we got to marry within our own people, right? Within our own nation. So now it's saying, but be continually with the godly man, whom thou knowest to keep the commandments of the Most High. So it can't only just be an Israelite. You got to make sure it's an Israelite that's abiding continually by the laws of the Most High. Continue.
Whose mind is according to thy mind, and will sorrow with thee if thou shalt miscarry.
Exactly. So when you're going through the tough times, they're going to be there for you. She going to be there for you. He going to be there for you. Happy, all them times, all them trials, tribulations, guess what? They're going to ride with you. And that's also another thing that we're just coming into understanding. Because back in the world, you get caught up, you get upset, guess what? That's it, I'm done. I'm fed up, kick rocks. You either kick somebody out, they kick you out, or you go your own way. The Most High says, what does he say about separation? He says he hates it, right? He hates that. So he says, nah, you know what? You got to work it out. That's why he gives us steps and ways, things to check for before we go and commit ourselves to a relationship. Because for those that don't know, as soon as a man goes into a woman sexually, guess what? That is your wife. So when you read these precepts and these scriptures in our history, it shows you that if we applied all of these things, just like Joshua 1:8 states, everything would be in order. We would have great success. But is that the case? No, because Israel's stubborn, hard-headed, right? Backsliding. But that's what we got to stop, being. We got to come back to the understanding of the Most High. So we just read that these individuals that we go and make marriages with, of course they got to be of Israel, but they also got to be fearful of the Most High. Abide by the statutes, the laws, the commandments. Let's get from there. Let's get a bit of history. What happened in? Go to Nehemiah. Nehemiah 13. Actually, before there, go to Joshua. Joshua 23. Joshua 23 and 11. Joshua 23:11 down to about 13, I believe.
The book of Joshua, chapter 23, and verse 11. Take good heed, therefore, unto yourselves, that ye love the Lord your God. Else, if you do in any wise go back and cleave unto the remnant of these nations, even these that remain among you, and shall make marriages with them, and go in unto them, and they to you, know for a certainty that that the Lord your God would no more drive out any of these nations from before you.
Imagine that. So the Most High was riding with us, right? Because we were being obedient. He says, but if you go back and make any marriages, any covenants with any of these people, know for certainty. No, it's for sure. It's guaranteed that the Most High is not going to be with you no more. He's going to have these nations come in, and guess what? They're going to overpower you, overtake you, take you into captivity, destroy you. Continue.
Know for a certainty that the Lord your God will no more drive out any of these nations from before you, but they shall be snares and traps unto you, and scourges in your sides, and thorns in your eyes, until you perish from off this good land which the Lord your God hath given you.
Man, imagine that. Imagine you had everything. Most High said, all right, you want to mess around, you want to go back, be disobedient? It's going to happen. And what happened? We got booted out. First, the northern kingdom, then the southern kingdom. Many times, he gave us another opportunity. Got booted out again. To the point that 70 AD came, and guess what? Ever since then, have we gone back? Nope. We in this jacked up situation. And these, among the heathen, being treated like scum when we were supposed to be the best of this earth, when the earth was created for our benefit, right? But let's get, before we go to Nehemiah, let's go to Deuteronomy and understand one of the curses. Go to Deuteronomy 28, the head and the tail.
And I just wanted to pull out the fact where it says, "They shall be snares and traps unto you." When you look at it, when you look at like brothers, because you know they say brothers are chasing what we call snow bunnies, the white women, and all that type of stuff. So when you look at it, how many brothers is in prison for messing with white women? How many brothers got set up? How many accusations is made against brothers for being around or being affiliated with these white women? So Most High wasn't playing when he said that they're going to be for snares and traps, but we'll never want to listen to the Most High. So now we reaping the curses. Now we reaping. Now we doing all this time in prison. Now we are. You see what happened to Tiger Woods? Our money, they taking half of our income, taking everything from brothers, stripping brothers half naked of everything that they own, because we decided to go on our own accord and not listen to the Most High. The Most High said, "Stick with your own. You don't gotta mess with these white women. They don't love you. They don't care for you." The Most High said, "You got plenty of beautiful sisters within your nation that you can be blessed with and have a marriage with." So we just got to take the Most High's advice.
Yep. Just got to stop being stubborn, Israel. And you go down the line, it's funny because when you look at certain studies, right, they say that the white female is going to go for that rich black or Latino man. Other than that, she ain't really going to deal with him. When it comes down to like statistics and stuff like that. But it's funny that it says the native female, the black female, they look at anybody, any other nation that has a better status than their own nation, than their own people, and they're bound to go ahead and marry these people because they believe, you know what, it gives me a better status. You see, a higher education, people with higher educations, they bound to go outside of their own people and marry with these heathens. When you look at this supremacy, right, when they show you that they are the supreme nation, although we might think about it like, nah, that's not the case, subliminally and down deep down in your brain, it has taken effect. When they came through with that white image, that did a lot for our people, even within our own communities. Black people understand, you know, the light-skinned individual, light-skinned brothers, sisters, a lot of our people feel like they got it better, right? They got it easier. And a lot of times that is the case. In the Latin community, the same thing. So-called Hispanic community, indigenous community. They look at the light-skinned people like, oh, you know what? Those are so beautiful. Look at those kids. Look at those light skins. Look at those eyes. And they look at the indigenous people, the Indian-looking, the native, darker-looking ones, like, nah, you know what? Those are no good. So you start creating a hate for your own. And it continues. And again, you look at all these brothers, sisters with, you know, good positions or good status. That's who they go for. They don't deal with their own. Look at all these. Just look up your favorite celebrities, comedians, you know, artists. All of these, not all of them, but most of them, they are with the, married with the enemy. And for the most part, a lot of them have, you know, married the Edomites. The biggest snare, the biggest enemy of us, of ours, right? But, so you were, we're going to go to Deuteronomy, but you know what? It's not enough time. Let's jump to, let's just go to the history. Let's get Joshua. You read Joshua, right? Let's go to Nehemiah 13. But even when you go into the curses, you could do it on your own. Remember, we were going to be set above the rest. But then if we did the opposite, he said you would be the tail and they would be the head. We would go for them for everything and anything that we needed, right? We need fuel, we go to them. Back in the day, we used wood, right? Nowadays, we use gas. Who owns these companies? Water, the water and power, clothing, raiment, food, everything. We have nothing. The Most High said, I promise you the land of milk and honey, where you're not going to lack anything. We gave that up to be in this situation. Working 9 to 5, working 12-hour shifts, working 6 days a week, being so burnt out, not being able to enjoy our kids, which is another one. It says you will beget sons and daughters, and they will be given to another nation. The school systems. Oh, yeah, nah, they're cool. I got a good job. They're in good schools. But what are they teaching them? wickedness, their history, indoctrinating our babies. Straight cursed condition, no matter which way you look. Read Deuteronomy 28, everything that happened, all our vineyards, all of that, our ox was taken. All from what? From disobedience, from disobeying the Most High. Because imagine if we kept if we sharpen each other up, if we just focus on our people and forget about everything else that society has out there, imagine how quick we would prosper. Imagine, that's what the Most High was saying. Nah, look, build hedges around you, right? Set up walls. Keep the enemies in the outer courts. Don't bring them in. Because even when the temple was designed, it said all these other people, even in the kingdom, it shows you in Revelations that the outer court, that's where the heathens are going to be. They're not going to be allowed into the, within the, you know, the, what do you call it, the temple, or within the borders of where Israel's going to dwell. They're to be kept outside of the courts. So what was the reason behind that? So we wouldn't be corrupted by these individuals. But what happens nowadays? You want to jump on everybody else's bandwagon beyond they, you know, be caught up with their business, that at the end of the day, we forget about ourselves. We forget about what our duty is, which is sad. And that's the reason why we end up in the jacked up situation. You know, even, you know, you go, who lends you money nowadays? All the enemies, right? Esau. The sister brought up a point the other day, how, you know, the Amalekites, Amalek, the fake Jews, they don't charge no interest to their own. Isn't that a law that was given to us? Imagine we were able to do that. Our people out there trying to make any amount of money possible, you know, doing our own people dirty. But that's another, you look at everything, man, it's not just something simple that the Most High said, nah, you know what? I don't want you to deal with them because I said so. He said, nah, there's all these cons if you do deal with these individuals. But let's get some instances in history. For example, what we're going to read about right now in Nehemiah 13:3.
Nehemiah chapter 13, verse 3 or 23?
Yeah, nah, start at 3.
Verse 3. Now it came to pass, when they had heard the law, they separated from Israel all the mixed multitude.
All right, so they're coming back to the understanding, to the laws, to the statutes. Because remember, we forgot every captivity that we went in, we forgot it. We started abiding by the ways of the other nations. So it says, now that the law was written, imagine us nowadays. How many people of our nation are caught up in mixed relationships? A lot. So that's what was happening here. When they ended up in Babylon and Syria and the land of the Persians and the Medes, we intermingle with these other nations, right? So now they heard the law. It says that now it came to pass when they had heard the law that they separated from Israel all the mixed multitude. And let's go to 23. See what had happened back in the day.
Verse 23. In those days also saw I Jews that had married wives of Ashdod, of Ammon, and of Moab.
African, Jabs, Chinese. Go ahead.
And their children spake half in the speech of Ashdod, and could not speak in the Jews' language, but according to the language of each people.
So imagine that. That's all right, right? Is that a light thing? Imagine we don't know how to speak our own language at this moment, at this point in history. What was wrong with that? Imagine that. Isn't that what happened during the Hellenization period? When the Grecians came in? They know how to separate. They gave certain of our people in here in the Americas English. Another set, they gave Portuguese, right? They gave French. They gave Spanish. So just that alone, you look at a certain people, that's not my people. I don't even understand what they're saying. I can't even communicate with them. So imagine that if an individual that speaks Spanish has the law and the person that speaks English doesn't have the law. How can that individual relate the law to that fellow brother? You can't. So a lot of these things, it said they were going to be snares unto you. So it says they could not speak. Because remember, a lot of these, who cares for you? Who nurtures you when you're a kid, when you're a baby, as you're growing up? Is your mother. So they were learning these things from these women, right? These Moabites, these Ammonites, and these African women. So at the end of the day, that begins a whole lot of confusion. Imagine, they didn't even know that was a sin. But we read in the law that it was against the law to do these things. Go ahead, continue.
And I contended with them, and cursed them, and smote certain of them, and plucked off their hair, and made them swear by God, saying, Ye shall not give your daughters unto their sons, nor take their daughters unto your
Go
sons,
ahead.
or for yourselves. Did not Solomon, king of Israel, sin by these things?
What?
Did not Solomon, king of Israel, sin by these things? Yet among many
sinned.
nations,
Right, so hold up. Right, so it said, did not King Solomon sin by these things? 1 Kings 11, right? That caused the separation, the split of our kingdom. Because it wasn't that he took many wives. He took wives from the other nations that caused him to what? To go ahead and follow these gods. And they moved in on him at his old age, right? He should have been wise. But imagine one of the individuals that was one of the wisest individuals in Israel, he still fell for that. Oh, the scripture's going to tell you that actually. Continue reading.
did not Solomon, king of Israel, sin by these things? Yet among many nations was there no king like him, who was beloved of his God, and God made him king over all Israel. Nevertheless, even him did outlandish women cause to sin.
Exactly, because that's their whole, that's their agenda right there. They know what to do. That's what they're doing, because when Psalms 83 comes, you know, when you read it, it says they are confederate against thee. They see somebody, you know, that they could go and destroy, guess what? They're going to take advantage, like this brother just brought out. How many brothers are in prison? What happened to a lot of our, you know, brothers back in history when they try to get caught up? And it's crazy because they take it as a prize, whether it be a black man or a Latino man. Man, I got me my white female, my white chick, my white woman. Like, really? Then they also say, you know what, I get with them because, you know what, they understand you. They're, you're able to work with them. They're obedient. I'd rather deal with them than have the headache of dealing with one of my own. But what caused that? If we treating our women, you know, in a messed up way, what's going to happen? Same thing. You raise your boys to mistreat them, then of course, you know, they're going to defend themselves. And the same thing, you raise your daughters to go for the celebrity, to go for the individual with money, no matter what his character might be like, or to fall in love with the thug Jake, right? You're not teaching them anything that the Most High told us to teach our women or our sons. We read in Sirach, what's one of the things that we got to constantly tell them to look for is an individual that abides in these laws. Because if he abides in these laws, that means he's going to be about the business of the Most High. And being about the business of the Most High, guess what? He's going to, be a successful individual. He's going to know how to treat a female. He's going to know about business. He's constantly going to be trying to thrive instead of, you know, being a couch potato, being in the GR line, just being a lowlife. Nah, says the Most High, man, hell nah. Our legacy is beyond that. We're supposed to be the best. So this individual, the female, the son, they're going to try to be the best. They're going to be working on being the best that they could possibly be. But again, destroyed for lack of knowledge. So he said, even this individual, one of the wisest, didn't these outlandish, wicked women cause him to sin? Read 1 Kings 11 if you haven't read it. Go ahead.
Verse 27. Shall we then hearken unto you to do all this great evil, to transgress against our God in marrying strange wives?
Mm-hmm. So, are we? Do we allow that to happen? Hell no. Is there any questions? Are there any questions? You have a question out there? Anybody? What'd it be?
Sister was asking, at one point the Most High said to marry within your tribe. Is this the only reason why we don't do that today, because we don't know what tribe we're from?
Yeah, but that he's saying that is in Tobit, right? But when you look at tribe, it's just talking about your own nation. That's all it's saying.
It's family.
Family. When you look at tribe, when you look at it's tribe, you got what is it? Nation. What's the other word? But they're all what do you call it? Synonymous to, you know, a tribe, to a family. Mm-hmm. That's all that scripture was talking about. because it is in Tobit, if I'm not mistaken, where he was told to, marry from your own tribe. What is it, Tobit 4 and 12, I think it is? Get that right quick? Because that's even showing you, there's this brother right here of the tribe of Naphtali. He was that's a beautiful book to read in regards to marriage. It shows you all the different things that we must look into before, getting into a relationship. Is it 4 and 12? Let's see. Go ahead and read that.
Tobit chapter 4 and verse 12. Beware of all whoredom, my son, and chiefly take a wife of the seed of thy fathers, and take not a strange woman to wife, which is not of thy father's tribe.
So you see, it said of thy seed of thy fathers. So that wouldn't make sense if it's just focusing on one particular tribe. It's saying of thy seed of thy fathers, right? Fathers, plural. So it's saying anybody from your nation, Reuben, Simeon, Levi, Judah, Naphtali, Issachar, Zebulun, as long as it's from your family, from that lineage, guess what? It's all good. Finish up.
For we are the children of the prophets,
Uh-huh.
Noah, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Remember, my son, that our fathers from the beginning, even that they are all married, wives of their own kindred.
Of their own what?
Kindred.
Their own kindred. So that's what it's talking about. Your own family, your own people, within your own family tree. Go ahead, continue.
And were blessed in their children, and their seed shall inherit the land.
So that's what the Most High meant with that. It's not like he told you to marry within your own tribe and that was it. Because imagine, even in these days of Ezra, they didn't know their lineage. They would try to set themselves up. What is it? Go to Ezra 10. You finished that, right? Nehemiah. Ezra 10 and verse. What do I have right here? Maybe you can start at 10 and 1. Nine and 1.
Ezra chapter 9 and verse 1. Now when these things were done, the princes came to me, saying, the people of Israel, the priests and the Levites, have not separated themselves from the people of the lands, doing according to their abominations, even of the Canaanites, the Hittites, the Perizzites, the Jebusites, the Ammonites, the Moabites, the Egyptians, and the Amorites. For they have taken of their daughters for themselves and for their sons, so that the holy seed have mingled themselves with the people of those lands.
So that the holy seed has mingled, has polluted itself, right, with all these other nations of the land. When you look at history, you look at Israel, for example, take Simeon. Where was Simeon located? In Judah, right? In Judah. You don't think these brothers, these tribes, were marrying within each other, amongst each other? Of course they were. Look at what we're doing now. And we don't even know what tribe we're from. But we understand that those that keep the law, the statutes, guess what? Those are our fellow Israelites. So guess what? We're going to go ahead and and make covenants, marriages with them. But when you look at that, I mean, you had, in the days after Rehoboam and Jeroboam, you had Zebulun, Naphtali, and I forgot what other tribes, but you could read it in the Kings, that came and dwelt with the southern kingdom, which consisted of Judah, Benjamin, and Levi. You swear they were not, having relationships with each other. It's the same lineage. It's from the same stock. You don't read in the Bible where it says, do not marry, Judah don't marry Zebulun. Zebulun do not marry Issachar, for he will be a stumbling block to you. Nah. He gave us the understanding in Sirach, look, whatever you marry from within these 12 tribes, make sure that they fear the Most High and keep his commandments. And that they're of age and along, other things and stipulations. But he said, right, the scriptures say, for they have taken of their daughters for themselves and for their sons, so that the holy seed they have mingled, right? Have mingled themselves with what?
with the people of those lands.
Uh-huh.
Yea, the hand of the princes and rulers have been chief in this trespass.
So imagine the head people were doing these things. So as the leader of the people, all right, the people, the individual that leads these, whoever leads you, what happens to the individuals under them? If these chief individuals, these priests were committing these transgressions, what do you think the rest of the people were doing? The same thing. Let's jump to the next chapter and read 10 and 2.
Ezra chapter 10 and verse 2. And Shechaniah the son of Jehiel, one of the sons of Elam, answered and said unto Ezra, we have trespassed against our God.
So did they know the law? Right? They knew the law. It says, we have trespassed against our God. Go ahead.
And have taken strange wives of the people of the land. Yet now there is hope in Israel concerning this thing. Now therefore let us make a covenant with our God to put away all the wives and such as are born of them, according to the counsel of my Lord, and of those that tremble at the commandment of our God.
You see that? That's what they were doing. It says, now let's put away all our wives, because we now understand that we have transgressed against the Most High. The law was the law stays from beginning to end. The only law that was done away with was the sacrificial law. And I always bring up to an extent, because now we present ourselves as a living sacrifice, right? But it says this right here, we know from our ancestors, we read the Nephthalite right here, Tobit. He told his son, like, look, brother, ever since the beginning, our people have not chosen to marry outside the nation. And anytime that did happen, guess what? They got caught up. So it's saying we were to put, read verse 3 again.
Verse 3. Now therefore let us make a covenant with our God to put away all the wives, and such as are born of them, according to the counsel of my Lord, and of those that tremble at the commandment of our God, and let it be done according to the law.
Go ahead.
Arise, for this matter belongeth unto thee. We also will be with thee. Be of good courage, and do it. Then arose Ezra, and made the chief priests, the Levites, and all Israel to swear that they should do according to this word, and they swear.
Jump to verse 10.
Verse 10, and Ezra the priest stood up and said unto them, ye have transgressed, and have taken strange wives to increase the trespass of Israel.
So imagine, we were already in a messed up situation. So he said, look at what you did now. Damn, you just don't get it, right? We sin, we transgress against the Most High, against the laws, and now you made the situation even worse by what? By going and taking strange women. Continue reading.
Now therefore make confession unto the Lord God of your fathers, and do his pleasure, and separate yourselves from the people of the land, and from the strange wives.
There you go. That's the answer. I said, look, if you with them, gotta let them go. At the end of the day, it ain't gonna benefit you none. So, I mean, why would you, remember another scripture, what does it say about the unbelievers? It says, come together with the unbelievers? We know these people. It says go to Job. See if I could get it. And you start seeing the characters, you know, the spirit of these other nations. How do they feel about the Most High? What is it, Job? Let's see if I could get it. Basically, in the book of Job, Esau states that he got nothing to do with the Most High. Let's see if I can get this right quick. You know what scripture I'm talking about?
Oh, no.
Let me get it right quick. Right here, look, Job 22 and verse 17.
The book of Job, chapter 22 and verse 17, which said unto God, depart from us, and what can the Almighty do for them?
Imagine that. That's how the Edomites feel. That's how all these other wicked individual nations feel. Says, what? The Most High? What good is he going to do for us? What can the Almighty do for us? That's how Esau feels. So imagine how is he going to feel about you? And at the end of the day, what's he going to do to you? Man. But remember, the Most High said, look, these wicked individuals, they're reserved for a particular reason. They were even created for a particular reason. Because who did us the worst? It says, look, Esau, the brother was looking for a scripture earlier this morning, or this today, about, remember when the Most High says that he created Esau to basically whoop us, to correct us. There's a scripture that says that, and then another scripture says, but guess what? Esau overdid it. They went beyond what the Most High said. Most High said, give your son, your daughter 40, right? He said, nah, I'm going to give him 80. I'm going to give him 120, all straight. That's what Esau did with us. Continues to do with us. All these experiments, all these extra things, the Most High didn't say to do all that. But guess what? At the end of the day, the Most High did say, look, due to your transgressions, these things are going to come upon you. And who's allowing these things to go forth? The Most High. Who is he using? These heathens. And now we're going to go and make an alliance with these individuals. You must be a fool. But at the end of the day, we're going to sum it up with that. Any other questions?
The sister was saying specifically Numbers 36, 5 through 13. I just read it, but it's talking about a specific sect in Manasseh. Is it Lafayette or is it Lafayette? Huh? Yeah, yeah. That's a little different. So.
What was talking about? Numbers 36, you said? Dealing with the land. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, but see, like your brother said, though, we don't have the land nowadays. And that's also looking at, like, when you inherit something. When you inherit something, there's certain boundaries and stuff that you were given. So, of course, you were going to keep it in a certain, location or whatever. But when it comes, what happened?
I was going to say, even with that, most families, when they had a son, the birthright and the land and everything went to the son. So that didn't stop. And even dealing with that, most families, we understood that the birthright and the land and whatnot went to the son. So even when you had a son and a daughter, your land, if he went and married a sister from another tribe, the land will still be in his name because everything falls under that man's name. So either way it go, if someone from Gad, a man from Gad married a woman from Manasseh, then it would still be his plot. The problem here, or the issue here, I should say, was that this man had no sons at all. So basically, if they would have married into another family, because there was no son for the land to take the name of this particular family, that woman or those two daughters or the daughters would have lost the inheritance, because we understand that once they get married, the property becomes the man's, they become the man's. So basically the possession only had to deal with because that particular man had no sons, which it says he only had daughters. So that was the specification as well.
Exactly. Yep. But yeah, within that, man, the Most High never allocated a law, never put out a law where you could just marry a particular tribe. If not, you would read various precepts, but that's that hasn't been the case. And even then, what was it with the was it David, right? And the instance where the daughter was of a status. When you look at the land, well, she had land, she had maids and all that stuff.
David had a wife from the tribe of Benjamin.
And you look at even that. You look at the different tribes that he had. When you look at David,
Saul,
you
Saul
know,
was Benjamin.
Saul being the Benjaminite, right? And that sister was blessed with land and everything. He took her to wife. There was nothing wrong with that. But a lot of times, a lot of our people take one particular scripture and feel like, that was something that was given to all of Israel to abide by. Or if it was, it was a law that was created. That wasn't the case. Yeah, context. But are we good with that? All right, then. Yeah, so keep them within the topic. Tomorrow, 6 p.m.? At 7 p.m., there will be a Q&A class. So for any other questions that might have not been answered, that weren't, concerning the topic, tonight's topic, tomorrow at 7 p.m., you could tune in. And any question that you might have, that's going to be the forum for it. 7 p.m. tomorrow, Wednesday. But with that, we're going to go ahead and send them up, close out, face the east.